So while I was in Japan, I was told about a tradition that they have festivals and throughout the year, and there's a specific one. All the stores around that festival, they give a lot of discounts. Specifically one, and they have discounts on purses where they do 90% off. So you can only imagine how I was waiting and waiting for that festival so I can go to that specific store and get a purse. And that's what happened. But before I tell you about the store, I'm going to share with you something very different. One of the things about me that people don't know is that I don't understand American football. And my friends, for the last 25 years, since I moved to the US, they have been trying to teach me, but somehow I am not getting it. All I can see is these big men jumping on each other. But now I live in Louisiana. Who here knows what is the LSU football team? What are the colors of the brand of the Tigers? Okay, that's a great background for the talk. So, I was in Japan, I went to the festival finally, and I went to the store, and they had so many beautiful purses, and yes, they had 90% off. As I was looking around, I found one purse that I absolutely loved. That purse has the colors that I loved since I was a little girl growing up in the Middle East. And I brought it with me. I was trying to hide it. I thought that this purse is so perfect for going to the farmer's market. I was living in North Carolina at that point, in Raleigh, Durham. And one day, after my assignment was done and I moved back to North Carolina, I went to a farmer's market and I was wearing this beautiful purse. And a random man walked towards me and he said, "Go Tigers!" I was surprised. And I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Go Tigers! LSU football Tigers!" I didn't get it. He thought I'm crazy. I thought he's crazy. He left and I never met him again. Isn't it interesting how two colors represented so much that he saw a total stranger, and just by looking at the brand colors, that gave him the motivation to come and talk to me? What do you think these two colors represented to him? Okay, but what does LSU represent to him? Football. What does the LSU football represent to him? Team. It's hard to hear you. Home. It represents home. What else? Connection, community, pride. All of these things he got from the colors. And these are the brand colors for LSU. And can you imagine how much energy and money LSU invests in their brand in order to ensure that all of the fans continue to feel the pride related to the university, the football, and anything associated with the brand. And that's what we're going to talk about. Not the brand of LSU, but our brand. So now, Apple computers. What comes to your mind? Words or phrases, mainly adjectives, when I say Apple computer? Innovation or innovative? Slick, yes. Do we have anything from the virtual team? Okay, yes. Expensive. Yeah, so these things come to our mind. Do you think they want to be another computer company? Or they want to be very different, where I'm okay to pay a little more and get Apple compared to other computer brands? What about Tesla? What comes to your mind? Adjectives related to Tesla. Fast? Okay, fast. Thought leader. Environmental. And do they want to be another car company? Or do they want to be different? And that's very important.
Yeah, unique.
Unique, yes. Anything else from the virtual?
Competitive advantage.
Yes, that's their competitive advantage, yes.
Yep. Innovation, expensive.
Yes.
The future.
The future.
Yeah.
Absolutely, where people are, the consumers, some consumers are okay to pay more for a Tesla or for an Apple because it represents something positive for them. It is beyond the other cars. What about Nordstrom's? Service. Variety, yes. Quality.
Free returns.
Free returns. Yes. Do they want to be like any other store, selling purses and shoes and underwear? No, they want to be different. They want to be more. And that is very important to keep in mind as we are going to talk about branding and how you brand yourself. So now, just for a quick activity for you to do around the table, these are logos of various companies. And on the right-hand side, they have the taglines. And you're welcome to use your phone if you would like to Google anything. I want you to link the logo with the tagline. And I would love for you to do it as a group within your table. So, and for our virtual audience, I realize it's you, so go ahead and you do it on your own, and then we're going to discuss it. So I'll give you just a couple of minutes to do that. going to go ahead and start. And for our virtual audience, enter your answers in the chat. So which company, their tagline is your potential, our passion? Microsoft. Imagination at work. Yes, GE. Everyone's private driver. Uber. Save money, live better. Yes, and you're done. A better way forward? Yes, we beat our competitors, not you. The pursuit of perfection. Yes. So isn't it amazing how these companies, they constantly keep promoting their brand? So even if the names are not here, just by looking at the logo, by looking at the tagline, it represents something that they want us to keep thinking about as we are thinking about the same brand. So that is so powerful, and they spend a lot of money and energy and thought and analysis for them to be able to continue to communicate their brand. People have brands too. Some are good, some are bad, and some were good and now they're bad. So the brands keep changing, and that's something for us to keep thinking about because we have brands as well. And it's our responsibility to realize what is our brand and to understand how we communicate the brand. So if somebody mentions our name, we know we're working hard to help them think of us in a positive brand image. So now if you announce that you're giving a talk, whether it's a TED Talk or any other talk, what topic do you think others are going to automatically assume that you're going to speak about?
College football.
LSU. That is so funny. I should give you the purse. College football. Okay. Motherhood. How many of you here, if you feel comfortable, to raise your hand if you don't even know what people would think about you? Thank you for raising your hand. Thank you, because that's why this topic is so important and we're going to spend time on it. I'm going to give you some ideas and resources so you can start spending more time thinking about these things. I'm so thankful you raised your hand too, because I know many times we don't feel comfortable to even share. And we live in a very fast world. We don't stop and think about, what is my brand? How do I want people to perceive it? What can I do something about it? How can I do something about it? So I'm going to give you some tips as we go through this presentation. So your brand exists in the minds of others, and that's something that we need to keep working with, and that's what we're building on right now. So in my situation, after I came back from Japan, I was in my mid-30s, and that was over 10 years ago. I came back to the US and I felt that I was going through some kind of like a personality shock or midlife crisis or something. I just felt that I did not understand what am I supposed to do. And I did not understand what is my value. I was just not excited going to work anymore. Something felt missing. And as a result, one Saturday night, I went online and I Googled looking for an executive coach. I was hoping that I would just meet someone and this person would be so intelligent and just tell me everything I need to know about myself, as if they exist. And so I emailed her and I asked for a meeting. We met Monday morning, which was wonderful. And I explained to her the situation. And she said, sure, we'll figure out what you're supposed to do with your life, but first, we need to understand your brand. I never understood what that meant. So at that point, I have a master's in business. I was managing global team, traveling around the world, making good income, but nobody ever paused and told me, we need to understand your brand. What does that even mean? Then she started asking these questions. What words do people use to describe you? And you're welcome to write those down because they're going to come back. We're going to talk about them. What do you bring to work that others do not have? And when you're writing them, they are on page, for the audience here, page 24. How do you differentiate yourself? What are you known for? How do others perceive you? And how do you communicate your brand? So she asked me these questions, and I honestly started crying. Because I thought I was in a good place in my life. I thought that I was spending the time and energy working hard, working nights, working weekends, trying to prove myself constantly. And it was the first time that I was shocked to find out that I did not even know who I was. I didn't understand how I'm different. Is working long hours what differentiate me, or is it the value that I bring? Is it just focusing on the next promotion that is my goal? Or is it truly being fulfilled and happy about what I do? If I knew what would make me happy. And in my situation, in my bachelor's, nobody talked to me about this. In my MBA, nobody talked to me about this. I went through amazing leadership programs with IBM. Nobody paused and asked me these questions until that moment. And that's why I'm so happy to share them with you, because all your life, just like my life, will change the more we continue to think about these questions and think about how do others perceive us, all of these things. So I went home, I mentioned to you, and I cried. I kept crying all night because I was in so much shock. And that was a major opportunity for me to start truly thinking and digging deep and understanding what is my value, how am I different, how am I projecting my brand, and continuing to think about it. So now I want to ask you, if somebody mentions your name, what adjectives would you like them to think about? What do you want your brand to represent for others? Whether now or how you would like it to be in the future, or how you're wishful thinking right now. Dependable, yes. Positive. What about goal-oriented? Great leader, great team member, dependable, which we heard earlier. What else? What would you like your brand to be? Trustworthy. Did you say loyal? Yes, loyal. Fun, yeah. Fun, focused. Absolutely. And again, it's okay if right now you don't know. That's okay. This is the time to reflect. This is the time to write in the workbook. So why should we talk about this? I already gave you the answer earlier. Why do you think it's important for us to spend time right now and to look at where you are in your career and to talk about it? Raise your hand if you would like to answer. Maybe to get to know ourselves more? Yes.
Because we're the only ones responsible for our own career.
Oh, excuse me, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Because we're the only ones, if we don't do it, then who's going to do it? We're the ones responsible for our own career, so we got to make it happen, right?
Yes, if we don't know ourselves and if we don't promote our brand, who's going to do that? Absolutely. That's such a good point.
It brings intention to your next path or next step.
Yes, it brings intention and it also brings clarity, as you said, because this way you can talk with your manager about your goals, your aspirations, what kind of work you're good at, understanding your strengths, understanding your weaknesses, instead of hoping that your manager and the executive team will just put you in the right place. This way you know what you want. Okay? So now we're going to spend time talking about how, right? I terrified you enough by now, right? I hope nobody's going to cry, but if you do, it's okay. Crying is healthy. I cried too. So now let's talk about how we're going to understand our brand. And before I share with you all the details, I want you to realize that this is a journey. It's not going to be one time where you're going to sit and figure it out. My recommendation is maybe to block half an hour a week to work on the things that I'm going to mention to you. Because even when you achieve them, more things are going to come up, which is so wonderful. It's so deep. 3 things you need to keep in mind. And that is in the workbook on, that is still also on page 24. The first one is develop your brand, and that is the part when we get to understand who we are. The second one is to communicate it, and the third one is to evolve your brand. So now, let's start with developing our brand. The first step in this section is to go through the questions that my coach gave me. And just like these questions opened an opportunity for me to pause and to reflect, I'm hoping they're going to help you too. And some of you may not know the answers, and that's okay. But when you start, the more you start thinking about them, your unconscious mind is going to start observing your interactions. You're going to start being more intentional for finding the answers. In my situation, it took me over a year. Some of you may be faster, others it may be a year, but that's okay, as long as we are investing our time and energy and thought into this. The second one is personality assessment. Some of you may have taken some of these assessments. So the first one is emergenetics. The second one is the DISC assessment. The next one is emotional intelligence 2.0, strength finder, and strength-based leadership. The last 3, you can get them on Amazon. They're so affordable. They're less than $20 each, and they're extremely powerful. Where you go to the book, you get towards the end, there's an envelope, you open it, it gives you a website and a code. You go in there and you answer questions. You need to be very honest with yourself of how you're answering it, and it gives you a whole report for you to think about how you're being perceived. Are you great in emotional intelligence or not? What are your top 5 strengths? And I know whenever I did something similar in the past, I would just look through it and move on with my life. I recommend for you, if you've done some of these assessments, to go back and to read the report and truly read it very carefully. Highlight in one color the items, the sentences and phrases that you agree with about yourself. Highlight in another color the ones that you disagree. And a third color, the sentences or phrases that you have not thought about related to yourself, because that's when a lot of the self-discovery is going to happen. And before we go to the next one, I recommend for you also to go to the last annual reviews where your manager wrote information about why you got your certain review for the year. If you can access it, even get the last 5 years and see if there's a common thread related to what the manager said about you, your communication style, your teamwork, your leadership ability. I know from my situation when I worked for IBM, anytime they would give me the annual review, all I cared about is the number, so I would know how much raise up bonus I'm gonna get. Everything else, I would forget about it. Or I would zoom in all the one sentence that the manager said that was not nice and forget about everything else. Oh, she needs to develop this. How could he say that? Or why would she say that? And that's all I focus on. But let's go back with a neutral eye and truly see, is there a pattern of what is being said in our annual reviews, and look at it as an opportunity for self-discovery and to get to understand ourselves even more. Next one, how many of you here, you've done a 360 survey? Great. So for the others, and for anyone who did it, you can do it too. The 360 is you're mainly sending a survey to people that you work with, current team, your manager, anyone that reports to you, even prior team members, your mentor, and asking them for input of what they believe are your strengths and what they believe are your weaknesses. And that is so powerful. I know it can be very intimidating, and it's not comfortable asking others for input. But you can make it, of course, in a very positive way, where you would say, I'm working on developing my career. I am focused on understanding my brand. I would love to get your input. This specific tool, the reason I'm putting it here, you can go online and you just search 360 Reach. It's more of a branding tool where it would help you to understand your brand and how others perceive your brand. What I also like about it is the first 2 weeks they give you access for free. So for anyone who's not interested in getting the paid one, you go online and you enter the names of your contacts, you send them the survey, they respond, and as long as you download the report within 2 weeks, it's free for you. Of course, they ask, as I mentioned earlier, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, but they do something fun that I think is very creative, and they say, if you were a car, what kind of car would you be? If you were a cereal, what kind of cereal would you be? And it's fascinating because what they're trying to help us understand is the perception of others when they link our brand with other brands that we are more used to. So one of my clients, we did the 360, and almost everybody that responded, they said, she's so dependable, she's like a Toyota. She's great, she's like a Honda. And Honda, Toyota, and I love Honda and Toyota, they're great cars, and I've had them in the past, so nothing about them. But she got so mad, and she said, I don't want to be a Honda, I want to be a BMW. So, but how others are perceiving her was as a Honda, dependable, great car, gets the work done. But she wants a whole different brand. And whenever she did this, it gave her a better understanding that she needs to be aware of how she's being perceived. And if she truly wants to be like a BMW, her work style, her engagement, how she interacts with others, all of that, she needs to start thinking like the brand of BMW in order to become that. Isn't that funny? So be on brand in everything that you do. And there's 3 things you need to keep in mind, and this one is on page 26. The first one is your knowledge, your skills, your expertise, your leadership. So I want you to pause and think about what new skills and knowledge you would like to develop. Maybe it's certifications, maybe if it's a course, maybe certain things you would like to do that would help you differentiate yourself from others and would maybe position you as a subject matter expert in a specific area. I understand with the pandemic, many of us, our lives became extremely difficult. And I know a lot of women, they left the workforce. A lot of women, they did not focus on their skill development. That's why I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad that we have the virtual audience, because you are investing in your growth. You're investing in understanding what are areas you can continue to develop. But think about what additional knowledge you need. And what do you need to start doing as of today to develop it in order to differentiate yourself? The other one is presence. And this is how we're dressed. It is our posture, body language, and our online presence. I'm going to spend time talking about our online presence shortly. But I see everyone here dressed so professionally. When I was still with IBM, anytime we would hire someone new, we were just so shocked by how people dress, where they got their clothes out of the dryer. they're new out of college, so they didn't know what they're supposed to do. Or some women that I wondered, do they even have a mirror? Did they even look at themselves before they got to work? I don't think that's going to be a problem for our audience here, but it's just to keep in your mind, you want to continue to advance. How can you help your external image reflect that with being professional, being perceived, related to how you present yourself? And then the posture. I do this as well, and this is a warning for all of us. I know whenever I'm sitting in a meeting, this is very comfortable to sit and to just like cross my arm and cross my leg and try to keep my balance as I'm standing here. But what do you think is wrong with this posture if I'm sitting in a meeting? Closed out. What else? Not engaged. Does it come across as if I'm confident? No. My intention is not any of these things. I'm confident, I just like to be comfortable too. But it just doesn't work. And even when we're engaging with others, make sure your body posture is opened up. There is a really great TED Talk, and it is by, I think her name is Amy Cuddy. And it talks about the body language and how men, they tend to open themselves up when they're sitting, they're taking space. But women, we try to make ourselves small. And many times, not many times, her research is looking at our body. And the more we make ourselves small, that automatically, our body makes hormones that make us feel less confident. But when we open ourselves up, it's different. She talks about what is it called when you stand like this? It is the power pause. I'm not saying go to your boss like this. That's not what I'm saying. But before you have an important meeting, before you have a presentation, go to the restroom, or if you have an office with a door, just go and just stand like this. Maybe you do your square breathing that we learned about earlier, and that should boost you with confidence and is so powerful. Now, next one is communication. Our voice projection, vocabulary, sentence structure, the messaging, how we're doing all of these things. I know in my situation, English is my second language, so I'm so intentional to look at my emails and any communication multiple times to ensure that it doesn't have any grammar mistakes, any of these things. So if you're like me, whether English is your first language, second or third, just if you're not comfortable and it is an important email, have one of your team members help you and review it as well. I want to talk about the voice projection because I realize this happening a lot, where as I'm working with women from different backgrounds, from different cultures, we tend to be programmed early on to speak politely and speak very, very quietly because that is part of the culture. It's difficult to understand someone when we're speaking so low like this. Of course, it's polite, and some of us, our voice is not loud to be like we're not born with it. But think about your audience. It's not a matter of just saying something. It's a matter of ensuring that the person you're speaking to is hearing you clearly and can understand you. So if you're a person who your voice tends to be low, challenge yourself, speak a little louder. This is like a muscle, you'll get used to it. Make sure that when you're speaking to someone that they can hear you. Don't just speak, raise your voice and ensure that they can hear you. So all of this is developing our brand, and do you realize how much self-discovery this is going to take? And that's why I recommend for you, maybe on a Friday afternoon, block half an hour, or you pick your day, but every week where you are spending time to think about the questions that my coach asked me, to do personality assessments. Again, the ones I shared with you, they're not, last three, they're not expensive. The other two, I know many companies, they offer that for their team, so see if you're able to access it. But sit and reflect. And it's easy for us to judge ourselves. It's easy for us to say, oh, I'm not good enough, this is too hard, I don't know who I am, other people are better than me. Watch all of this horrible voice in your head and just instead say, yeah, I don't know my brand right now, but I'm working towards it. I don't understand how I'm being perceived, but I'm gonna take action. I'm going to do this 360 to get better clarity. Yes, I don't know what other people think about when they think of me. I don't know how I differentiate myself, but I'm working towards it, and that is just so powerful. Can you imagine if we were taught these things when we were in high school? Don't you think that our entire career path would be different? How many of you think it would be different? You don't think so? Yes, absolutely. But today is the day. And today is when you're learning all of these things, and I hope you're going to apply them, because it is going to open a lot of doors for you. It's going to make you more confident and more aware of what you want to do. I remember when I went through this entire process, one of the things I discovered is that I love to inspire others, and I love to help them discover their leadership ability and potential. What I also discovered that what I'm not good at is anything that requires Excel spreadsheets, data analysis, all of the calculations. It's just, I think God forgot that part of my brain when I was created. It's just I don't want these things. And I remember I was managing a team, and it was within like my job at IBM. Every 2 years we're supposed to rotate, especially the managers. It was 2.5 years, and I did not rotate. And my VP, vice president, kept reaching out, and he's like, Dima, we need to find you another job. It's been 2.5 years. I have a job for you. I want you. So he was the VP of procurement. I want you to work directly for me. And he had over like 10,000 people reporting to him. So he wanted me to work for him, and he wanted me to manage all the cost analysis data and track it globally. If I didn't go through this process, I would have felt so proud that he's even considering me to work for him. And I would have said, sure, I can do it. And then it would be a disaster. But because I understood what I'm good at and what fills me with energy and what excites me, that gave me the courage to say, I so much appreciate this. This is wonderful. I would love to work with you. But let me share with you the areas that I would like to develop and areas that I believe are part of my strengths. He never had that before. And he was so shocked that I even shifted the direction. And the best part was that they had a job opening in Baton Rouge for talent development. And I got that job because he helped me through it. And I was doing exactly what I loved. And I became loving my job more and more because I understood what's good for me. And I didn't wait for someone to invest in me or someone to say, maybe you're good at this, do this. No, I had more self-awareness, and I ended up, my career path became so better and so much more energizing since I discovered the moment. If I accepted the job doing all the data analysis for procurement globally, I feel for IBM, none of the data would have been correct. So now, with communicating our brand, many times when I'm talking with women around the world, they say, I don't feel comfortable communicating my brand. I feel that it is bragging. How many of you feel that? The rest, are you sleeping? Let me say that again. I think the effect of lunch should have been done by now. How many of you feel that you're not comfortable communicating what you're good at because you feel it is bragging? Better, but not great. Okay, it happens. And I'm not saying go to your team and say, I am great, I'm the best. We're not doing that. But we need to think about communicating our brand through service, which means if you have a new team member joining, volunteer to be their mentor, volunteer to help them. If you're good at a specific skill, maybe you're great in communication or presentation skill, offer to do a lunch and learn and share with the team tips of how they can improve that. Maybe you're really, really good in project management. Read articles about it and share it, whether within your team or whether it is on LinkedIn, and we'll talk about LinkedIn. This is when we shift our mindset that we don't want to share our brand or we don't want to communicate it because we don't want to come across that we're bragging. Stop thinking about that. Think about serving. How can you serve? Think about specific skills that you're really, really good at. And how can you help your team develop these skills? How can you share with them tips that would make them even better? How can you share those on LinkedIn and social media so people, whenever they're thinking about project management, communication, presentation skills, your name is going to come to their mind. And this is a powerful way to communicate your brand. And this is, in a way, linked to when I asked you earlier, if you were giving a TED Talk or a presentation, what is the first thing that comes to your mind or to the audience's mind? Or what do they think you're going to be talking about? This is how you demonstrate it, where they'll be like, wow, she is so great in helping us be a better team. She's wonderful in sending us fun team building activities. She's so good in presenting and she's teaching us that. That's what we want. We want to be visible. The last thing you would want in your life to be the best in something that nobody knows about. And you share your expertise through serving, through helping the team, through offering your knowledge. So watch how other people introduce you. So when they're introducing you, do they say what you're good at? And many times they may not, and that means they're not even aware of your brand. So I'll share with you something. It's a funny story, a little sad, but funny. I published a book a couple of years ago. It's my memoir. And I know another speaker who published a book who hired a coach to help him with the entire launch process. So I went to the other speaker and I said, can you introduce me to your coach? I'm launching my book and I would love to learn from him because my friend, the other speaker, did such a great job. So he said, sure, let me connect you over email. So he sent an email and he said, introduction, Trevor, meet Dima. And then he said, Dima, Trevor is an expert in his field. He has helped thousands of speakers publish books. He is such a great coach. He's this and this and this and this, all of the wonderful things. And then he said, Trevor, Dima, and he said, meet Dima. Dima is a nice pal. I don't want to be a nice pal. I'm great in stuff too. Of course, I want to be nice and I want to be a pal. But there's so much more about me. And when I read that email, it gave me the indication that this other speaker has no clue what I do. He didn't even share what my book is about. He didn't share that my leadership ability and all the work that I do with people around the world, none of that. When he thinks about me, he thinks of nice and pal. We want to be nice and we want to be pal, but we're so much more than that. And most of the time, we're not communicating it. And that needs to change, hopefully as of today. Keep your marketing material current. And it doesn't have to be you're updating your LinkedIn profile or your resume because you're looking for a job. That's not what I'm saying. And that's nothing has to do here. I remember even with IBM, whenever I was recommended for a specific role, I would be asked to send my resume internally, and I would be like, oh my goodness, I have not updated it for 2.5 years. And that is a problem. I coach a woman who has not updated her resume for 20 years. She got comfortable. I believe we need to keep all our marketing material current, LinkedIn, resume, not for the sake of finding a job, but for the sake of us documenting our success and documenting all of the initiatives and the achievements that we're having. And that is so powerful. And then demonstrate your expertise. And this is in every interaction and everything that you do. So keep in mind that brands, great brands, whether they're Nordstrom's, Tesla, or Apple, they don't become great brands by accident. Think about your company. Think about how much they're investing time, the marketing team, understanding your customer's need, understanding how to reach to the customer, understanding how they're promoting the brand. The same thing for us. And it does require time, it does require investment, but we're so worth it. We're more powerful than what we think, and we should not wait for an employer or a parent or a spouse to recognize our value. We start by recognizing our value, and the more we understand it and communicate it, that's when everybody else is going to recognize it as well. Okay, before I go to online brand, I want to see if you have any thoughts or any questions up to this point. And of course, our virtual audience too, if you can enter your thoughts, questions, comments in the chat. Yes?
My question is really for you. Obviously, you had a brand in your corporate world when you worked for IBM and some of these Fortune 500 companies, and then now, you're a speaker and you have your own book and you're an entrepreneur. How was your brand, was it just similar from your corporate, how people perceived your brand to now, or how did you make that transition to your brand now?
I am so glad you asked that. So what happened when I worked for IBM, and I worked for them 11 years, I traveled around the world, lived around the world, and my brand became Dima, the IBMer. When I introduced myself, I'm Dima, I work for IBM, this is my title, and I didn't realize how much that was a big part of my identity. So when I resigned from IBM to start my business, because I just absolutely love what I do, it was tough. It was so tough even introducing myself. Like, I'm Dima, but who am I? Like, my brand is not associated with a big, powerful brand. And I can tell you, it took me 6 months to a year to even get comfortable with that. So it was tough. But when you think about it, this is the brand, and it's really, in my situation, was very much linked to an ego, because I was like, oh, Dima, IBM, like, big deal. But when I lost that, it was so tough. But when we think about the underlying brand, the foundation, focus on developing others, focus on helping people expand their potential, trustworthiness, inspiration, passion, that didn't change. And that's who I was. And it's just a matter of continuing to recognize all of these beautiful qualities and keep nurturing them. And the same thing with you. And that's why I asked you earlier, if somebody mentions your name, what are the adjectives that are going to come to their mind? Because whether you're whatever you are around the world, or the title you have, or the company you work for, we want to make sure that the foundation, the brand, is so unique to you that you recognize it and you're comfortable sharing it with the world. Does this answer your question? Good. But yeah, it was tough. Because what happened, I took 2 months off. I went and I visited family, and then I went to a speakers conference, a writers conference, and then I came back to my home in Baton Rouge, and it was so shocking. I still remember that day. I didn't have a job. I was not on vacation. And I sat and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what do I do with myself now? So I needed to start my website, do the marketing, figure out my offerings, all of this. As I started putting the list together, I get very overwhelmed, closed the computer, and watched 3 movies. But then I had to reopen the computer and figure it out. Yeah. Anyone else? What about our virtual audience?
Yeah. One question is about changing your personal brand perception from the viewpoint of your peers and from the viewpoint of your boss.
So changing the perception from the peers and the boss. Mm-hmm. So when I think about it, you don't need a different brand for your peers, a different brand for your boss, a different brand for the people that you manage. It is your brand. So when we talk about dedicated, great team player, wonderful leader, focused on the legacy of the company, that's not unique to a specific group. Your goal is to understand what is your brand, and it would be the same brand regardless who you're engaging with. So I wonder if that is answering the question, or if they had a specific thing that they would like, because your brand to your manager should be the same to your peers and to the people you manage.
Yeah. And I think you gave the tips on how to change the perceptions in those 3 boxes.
Yeah, so changing the perception. It's not like one day you're going to be like, I don't feel like going to work this week and I'm just not going to show up. And then next week you're going to be like, I want my brand to be the most dedicated employee, right? That's not what we're talking about. Many times it is not changing the perception, it is understanding what is the perception and tweaking it, modifying it. Just like my coaching client, who the perception was being a Honda, like the brand similar to Honda, where she wants a BMW, that's when you understand where you are right now and you start doing things that would help you by serving your team, by communicating the things you're good at, by understanding who you are and continuing to evolve it.
We have a few more questions.
Sure,
from the
please
virtual
go.
audience. Okay.
Yeah.
The next one is, what do you do? This one comes up quite often, actually, I would say, in our Lunch and Learns, so it's a common theme. What do you do when you receive all positive feedback about your brand, I would assume, or about your performance, but it still doesn't manifest into the next big thing? So
Yes.
always get that question.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm very happy this came up. I'll share with you what I recommend, but I want to hear from you as well. And that's what happens, where many employees, especially women, at the end of the annual review, we're told, you're doing a great job, keep doing what you're doing. How many of you heard that? But did you get promoted the next year, or 2 years later, or 3 years later? Because there's a gap that we're not addressing, and it is being very clear with our supervisor, with our manager, that I am interested to get to the next level. What do I need to do? What skills I need to develop? What training do I need to take? What additional projects I need to do in order to that would qualify me to get to the next level? What I realized, and that happened to me in the past, and now with my coaching clients, many times we assume that if we're working hard, if we're going above and beyond, somebody out there is going to recognize us and say, wow, she deserves to be promoted. That's not how the game works. The game is for us to be clear what we want for our career and to communicate that to our manager, and what we used to call at IBM the second line, which is the boss's boss, and then the third line, the boss's boss's boss. We need to ensure that everybody is aware that we're interested, because in their head, they may have their own assumptions. Oh, she just had a baby. We're not going to give her additional responsibility. Oh, she's homeschooling. We're not going to add more work to her. We're not going to promote her. Or, she is right now taking care of a parent and she has a lot on her plate. You don't know what's going on in their head. That's why the more we realize what we want and feel comfortable to communicate it, that's when we get it. And of course, it's going to require for us to spend additional time for training and additional projects and all of this, but it's a matter of clarity. Clarity within ourselves and clarity, making sure everybody around us know that what we want. How many of you feel comfortable to do that? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course, I'm not saying don't work hard. Work hard, contribute, be passionate about what you're doing. But at the same time, there's another layer. Tell the boss, the manager, the second line manager, where you're envisioning your career, and ask for their help. Ask them, this is what I want to do. What do I need to, what additional training and work I need to contribute in order to qualify for this promotion? And how can you help me? And that's okay.
Yep, that was a great question. All right, last one. Should building your brand feel comfortable, or should it push you out of your comfort zone?
Should push you out of the comfort zone. Absolutely. If it's comfortable, that means you're not digging deep. Like even in my situation, I've been doing this, like discovering my brand and all of this, and it's 12 years. But the thing is, my brand continues to evolve. So where I was 10 years ago is different than what I am right now. I may be comfortable right now because I achieved my vision from 12 years ago, but is it where I am, where I'm supposed to be right now? Absolutely not, because I need to evolve my brand for the future. We change and our brand needs to change. And if you're comfortable, that means you need to get to work. Block this half an hour a week on your calendar. So now your online brand. It's so important for us to realize that we're beyond just our physical brand. All of us, we have a digital brand, just to add more work to you. So we have the physical, but we also need to ensure that our digital brand looks professional and is clear too. So if I Google your name, what's going to come up? Is it good things? Is it not too good things? Or is it nothing? And I recommend for you every month to Google your name and to see what information is out there. Because even with social media, where we think, oh, it's private, I put all the privacy things, oh my goodness, of course the pictures are not going to be private. Things are going to go out in Google. And I'm not saying don't be your beautiful, authentic self. Be yourself, but just aware what is your digital presence and what other people see when they are Googling your name. So that's something for you to think about. So let's spend a few minutes on LinkedIn, because that is so important. LinkedIn, to me, is a powerful resource for connecting, expanding our reach, our network, to ensure that there's so many wonderful groups and people sharing articles. My challenge to you is to read one article a day. That shouldn't take very much, 5 minutes. One article a day, and to share 3 articles a week. That's not very difficult, but it is very powerful for you to stay up to date of what is going on in your industry, in your focus area. And when you're sharing it, that's when you are sharing your brand. And of course, you're not going to pick a random article. Share something that is aligned with what you're doing. So let's say you are in accounting. Share something related to that would be interesting to others in accounting. And don't just share it. Add a comment. State what did you like about the article, why other people should read it. So that's powerful. Now let's look at the photo. What do you think of this one? And these are actual photos. Not professional, unless if she works for a brewing company, then it is very much aligned with her brand. It's actually cool, but initially you're like, that is not professional. This one, if you like to hike or to hunt, maybe that's great for Instagram and Facebook. Please don't put that on LinkedIn. And if you have a cute, cute dog that you absolutely matched with in a way for your wedding day, that is not LinkedIn. Put that on your other platforms. And cute babies, whether they're your kids or your nephews and nieces, that is not the place. And don't scare people with your photo too. And if you're meeting someone that you're so proud, just make sure we're seeing you. We don't need to see just the little side of you. The same thing with here, beautiful background, nice nature, but I want to be able to see the person. There's something powerful for us humans. We want to see the face, and even with the picture, we want to have eye contact. So make sure you're looking at the person. Recruitment manager, who would like to be hired by this recruitment manager? Oh my goodness. And then this is actual picture, and this person has the Z this way for president. I recommend for you not to put your cat or your dog or any of those. Put your beautiful picture. Put professional picture that represents who you are. And I want to recommend for you to connect with people at your table. If you're not connected already, make sure you talk during the break, add each other on LinkedIn, support each other, share resources and articles with each other. My challenge to you by the end of the day, that each one of you would connect with 10 people whether they're virtual or in person. Maybe with the virtual, go on the chat if you have access to it and connect with others, because that's how we're going to learn from each other, and that's how we're going to continue the relationship beyond today. I know there's more wonderful events coming up, but can you imagine when you see the same person in the next event and you've already built trust and relationship through social media and the connection? That's pretty powerful. Yes?
I'm going to just respectfully challenge one point you made.
Yeah.
I think that
Well, let's get the microphone so the virtual audience can hear you. Yes, right here.
this actually came, a little bit of this content came from WFF, one of the posts they did that I thought was so helpful. I think we can all agree the last 18 months, what our professional life looked like is not what it was. And I'm just going to be honest.
Yes, please.
Because my LinkedIn picture would probably go on your nose. So as a fundraiser for a hospital in our area, they did porch pictures, and I wanted to portray what my life was like now, working from home with 2 children. I think we can all agree as mothers, for those of us that are mothers in here, we not only work full-time jobs, we educated children, we took care of them full-time. And so my professional life and personal life collided in a way like never before. So I took my professional headshot, which was not indicative of what the last 18 months were, and I replaced it with a picture of my children and I on the front porch with me with my laptop and one kid with his iPad and the other one doing a TikTok dance, and I had all the products I sell every day around me. And I've gotten more positive feedback from that. People, other mothers saying, thanks for keeping it real, to even my customers just having a better understanding of our day-to-day lives have shifted and may never be back to what was our old normal. So I agree with you. Like, I don't have baby pictures of my kids, but I do have an accurate representation of what the workday looks like. Right.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
personal
love
and
that.
professional definitely melded together in the last 18 months.
Yes,
There's
I'm
no
so
denying
glad
it.
you shared that. But would you have a similar picture, let's say 5 years from now,
Let's put you
when?
on the spot. What
Yeah,
do you think?
I want to see the picture.
Let's see what you think.
Oh, so cute.
But do you see what I sell and what I do? And
I love
it
it.
talks to you professionally.
Yes. And you're welcome to go around. I wish I can show it to everybody. Now we all should connect with you. What is your name?
Heather.
So yes, go connect with Heather, because that's a nice picture. But would you put this picture in a normal situation? Let's say 5 years from now, we have better control of the pandemic. We're not dealing with what we're dealing with right now.
It really depends. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
There was some really interesting things shared by WFF that kind of inspired me to do it, as well as another organization called the Mom Project. And I think it's okay. I think that being mothers is a skill that you bring into your job. And so I'm actually okay with it. I think it also speaks to the work-life balance.
Yeah.
Now, I hope in 5 years it is different, but for now, I think it spoke to the situation. And
it represents your life right now.
It
Absolutely.
does. It does.
And it's such a cute picture
Thank
too.
you.
So
Thank you.
yes, I think both work, and you need to figure out what is right for you and what you're comfortable. I am more traditional in my mindset, and I would share a lot of fun things on other platforms. I try to be more careful on LinkedIn, but if your personality is not like that and you're comfortable to share a little piece of yourself, then do that. Because I think it totally applies to what's going on in our world. I know a lot, like especially for individuals that want to continue to advance. Yes, we need to keep our authentic self and reality, but also we need to do a little extra of watching how we're presenting ourselves. So it really applies to you. And I absolutely love that picture. So share your expertise, and this is linked to your challenge, reading 1 article a day, sharing 3 articles a week, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'm going to connect with you, and I want to see posts, and they're posts that you truly believe are helpful, something you read, an interesting TED Talk, something that helped you that you want to share with the world, and that is also so important for your brand. Contribute to online groups that are aligned with your interests. So if you are in finance, accounting, marketing, sales, women empowerment, there's so many groups out there, and it's important for us to participate. Separate your personal and professional profiles. So that is something for you to think about. And anything that is controversial. We're living in a world right now that there are so many opposing political views and different values that people have. I recommend for you not to post, at least on LinkedIn, related to these items, because it's so important for us to have a neutral image that represents an individual who is who's ready for the next level, who's accepting and inclusive of others, even if they have a different value and different political views. So that's develop, understand who you are, communicate, which everything we talked about, and the next thing is evolve. And the evolve is linked to some of the questions we had earlier, where we were 10 years ago is different than where we are right now, and different than where we are heading. And that's why it's so important to reflect related to where I am right now, how do I want my brand to be, but how would I like my brand to be in 5 years, in 10 years,